as you can see, we've been joined by my colleague, Lati.
Yes,
I had to pop out for a few seconds and
indeed.
he's back.
Indeed.
So,
Indeed.
Nancy, where were we?
Yes, Dio Laide in our Abuja studio was talking about how we can remedy the it looks, he called it something that is like a tradition. So towards the lower elections, the governorship, the state assembly, and all of that.
But it's not transbonding.
Not transbonding. He talks about the fact that when we're approaching governorship and state assembly elections, it looks as if participation drops. So, Daya, how do we remedy this? Considering the fact also that these elections mean that we're electing people who are closer to the people. So how do we get this remedied?
We have seen that the closer the election, the fiercer the competition. And so it's not surprising that a lot of the governorship elections across the states often comes with a lot of violence, a lot of threat to public safety and security. But I think that if we must address this, at least three fundamental things need to happen. I think number one is the issue of security. Elections are organized not just by INEC. Elections are organized by a number of stakeholders, including INEC, the security agencies, the political parties that are involved as candidates, as participants, the candidates, the voters, all of this range of people, right, are involved in the electoral process in different ways. While INEC may be the body that is directly charged with organizing it, all of these different actors also play one or two different roles in the electoral process. Now, until and unless you have a way of bringing all of these different actors to have a commitment towards one common agenda, which is that we would like to have a credible, safe, free and fair elections. Now, I will be fooling Nigerians and everyone listening to me if I say that all of these different actors actually commit to this central goal as we currently speak. So you find a situation where currently you may have INEC who is saying we are committed to free, fair, safe, credible elections, but the political parties may not, or a particular candidate somewhere may not. Some component or part of the voters may not, because for them it's about interest. So for me, that's the first thing we need to find a way of addressing. How do we get to that point where there is a common agenda and a shared commitment towards free, credible, safe elections across the country? I think I don't think I have the explanation on how we get to bring that about, because it has to be as a result of a long conversation. But I think we need to have that conversation. How do we commit everyone to credible, free, safe elections? That's the first point. The second point for me, it's about the citizens. Now, citizens would want to come out and vote. And if you look at what we saw in the run-up to the elections, 2019 elections, a lot of voter education, civic education, together with the continuous voter registration exercise, saw an additional 15 to 16 million fresh voters, eligible voters, coming onto the voter register. I think that is a huge leap, a big success. But however, compare that leap to the number of voters that eventually showed up at the presidential elections and the governorship elections. It's very difficult to actually explain what has happened. Whereas INEC was preparing for 84 million voters to show up. This time around, the number of voter turnout actually even further dropped to between 35 to 37%. Now, the amount of waste that is therefore recorded as a result of the absence of the voters at the poll is humongous. And I think that, I hope that Nigerians will actually find time to sit back and investigate what represents waste. Because INEC would have been working with that figure of 84 million only to have 28 million show up. At one of the briefings by the INEC chair, he explained that INEC had printed 411 million ballots for the presidential elections alone. We must also acknowledge that probably about that same size will have been prepared for the possible event of a run-up elections. So we are talking about massive investment that has gone into buying papers. In fact, someone was telling me that, am I aware of the fact that every year that Nigeria has elections, the world actually runs into shortage in newspapers. So it's massive. And I think, therefore, that the second thing that needs to happen will be that we need to do something to re-energize the confidence of the general populace in our electoral system. How can we do that? I think there are a few simple things that I think needs to happen. Under Jega, we saw an effort, a renewed effort, to actually reach out to the different stakeholders. Regular meetings, more openness, you know. The more transparent the commission gets, the more confidence it's able to whip among the general populace. And the more they believe that, yes, this commission means well, the higher their trust and confidence will be for the process that is being superintended by that commission, and eventually their readiness and willingness to participate in the, to come out to vote. And I think that, this second point about working on the confidence level of the general populace is also strongly connected to the first point that I mentioned, which is about security. If people fear that my going out may actually expose me to avoidable threat, they will likely stay home. If people feel that this INEC or this electoral management body cannot be trusted, they are also likely to stay home. Now, the third part that for me we need to then work on is the process of our electoral system. Our elections currently is very cumbersome. If you take the electoral guideline and you read through, there are at least 16 processes that an average voter must pass through, from verification, authentication, up to the point where you actually drop your papers in the ballot box. Now, just for purposes of illustration, the guideline allows INEC or the INEC officials to start elections by 8 a.m. and conclude by 2. Where, however, you have voters that are already on the line before 2 p.m. INEC guideline allows them to continue voting until 6. From 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., it's about 10 hours. 10 hours in minutes comes to about 600 minutes. Within that 600 minutes, it is expected that each polling unit will attend to at least 500 voters. Divide 600 by 500 voters. You realize that you actually have 72 seconds to attend to an average voter. If you break it down further and interrogate the current process, how it actually functions, how it operates, you will find that on average, an average voter will take between 2.5 to 3 minutes to vote, to complete the exercise. 2.5, if I take the upper limit, 3 minutes, it means in every polling unit, right, you actually need 3 minutes by 500 voters. That is 1,500 minutes for that polling unit to be able to completely register, authenticate, and allow a voter to drop the polling units. 1,500 divided by 60 will give us about 25 hours. At the moment, we have 6 hours. So ab initio, you find a situation where our electoral process, we need to rethink it. The process by which people go out there to vote. Now, again, there is a connection between these thoughts.
And let me put you on pause, Daya, and come to Lagos and Mrs. Benite.